Look, Matthew, look, nobody ever wants to make a decision where you can't help the most vulnerable and disadvantaged in society. But what I would say is we're giving 2.2 billion in aid.
We are the biggest benefactor outside the US, I believe.
And also what I would say is in 2011 and 2014, I said in 2011 to William Hague, on the floor of the House, what about creating safe havens on the border of Syria and Turkey? Nobody wants to leave their home. They want to be in a safe environment where they can go back to their homes when the conflict is over. Nobody ever wanted to do it around the world. There was no will. And then when you then interfere in another country, trying to bring about a change in government, then you have mass exodus of people, then we have a moral responsibility to do our bit to help the most vulnerable.
Is 350 enough?
But what I would say is not...
Is it enough?
It's not just 350. It's not. Can I just say this?
Unaccompanied children
I would say
from Syria.
700 also are the ones who've come under a different scheme to join their families over here.
OK, 1,000, is that enough?
I would say...
Well, there are 4.5 million displaced Syrians.
Question, because clearly it isn't enough, but there are 90,000 children in Europe. So 3,000 is an arbitrary figure plucked from the air. Ideally, we could take more. If the councils are... If there are insufficient places, I mean, Nicola Sturgeon didn't take a kid, nor did Bob Geldof. I think it's also worth pointing out we're very good at beating ourselves up in this country. Yeah. We're very good at prostrating ourselves.
Very good at launching wars.
Well, that's a civil war, Matthew, as well.
It's a war that we have involved ourselves in. We drop bombs on Syria, and then we don't care for the people we displace.
And I'll tell you who also doesn't care for the people displaced. All of the Gulf
Saudi
states
Arabia,
haven't taken a single refugee.
Yeah.
Kuwait, Qatar haven't taken a single refugee.
Two bombs don't make a right, of course.
It doesn't make a right, but we are far better, and we are a far better example to the Gulf states by taking what we've done, contributing this money. How much money is contributed by the Gulf states to this crisis? So I agree with.
But there is this argument, or at least there is a feeling I get that we're very good, perhaps, at splitting the money over there. We can find the money for the bombs, we can find the money to keep them over there. But what we're not very good at in this particular instance, certainly compared to when the situation in the Balkans, when I think we took in 200,000 refugees and the 10,000 children during in the head of World War II.
At all that this country is not good at absorbing people from.
I think we have been good.
I think we are good compared to our fellow states
Do you still feel
Can I
like...
not address the elephant in the room, which is the word children, of course. The problem with this policy is that when the children arrived, the ones that were in the media certainly didn't look like children. That's the problem for Theresa May, is it not? That's why she's had to quietly cancel it.
You can tell someone age by looking, can't you?
Well, Matthew, some of them looked jolly old to me. I mean, you know...
saw what,
there's a bit of common
children,
sense.
10, maybe two of them were proper headlines?
If people... And there will be people who chuck away their travel documents to conceal both where they come from and their age, and then say, well, I'm 14, and actually they look about 25.
Let's not forget, of course, you're a child at 17. I was at school with an Italian, accent who was shaving at 11. OK, he was 6 foot at 12. Yeah. 6 foot and shaving at 12. Right? That's not what I look like.
It's quite
rare. Might be quite rare, but it happens. You can't discriminate against people based on what they look like.
But we can't be taken for a ride either.
Yeah, but 350, when we found, what, hundreds of millions of pounds worth of bombs we've dropped on Syria and Iraq.
The most heart-rending thing I read was talking to kids who looked like kids. There are plenty of kids who looked like kids who didn't get to the front of the queue to
now none of them are going to get any help.
They got pushed out the way.
Now none of them are going to get any help. It's just that, can we not find the money or the locations or the foster parents?
I don't see why we can't actually help the ones who genuinely need helping. Yeah. There must be a way. Why was it that maybe there were lots of children we didn't see? But the ones we did see did not, to me, look like children.
But also, Matthew, the other position is this. They're talking about 300 at the moment, but we said we were taking 20,000 Syrian refugees over the next 5 years. We're partway through that. We've taken around 4,400 at the moment, families. If you then look at the
9,000 I'm seeing here.
So if you then look at the 700 children who've come in through the other route to join their families over here. So I would say in totality, have we played our part in helping the most vulnerable with aid and contribution and taking people in?
Canada's taken in 249% of it's the Oxfam's view on what each country should take in terms of wealth, space. Canada's taken over 240%. We've taken in 18%.
But in terms of space of Canada to the United Kingdom, is a different scenario.
Yeah, but as I said, that's what Oxfam did.
Right.
So they've accounted for that. 18% we've taken in of what they felt, Oxfam, that we could absorb.
But look, I think whatever the situation is, people say it's a difficult scenario to make.
For me, the issue is, if we weren't actively bombing their country, I'd shut up now. but we are actively bombing their country. And I think that carries a huge responsibility on every one of us.
Well, Matthew, when this first happened, I wrote an article to say if you intervene in another part of the world, then you have a moral obligation to address the consequences.
Yeah.
I wrote that, and that's why when the issue came about taking in 20,000, I said we should take it because we are involved in Syria. And so we have a moral obligation. But at the same time, you've got to balance that to what you were saying earlier about dealing with the homelessness, in terms of social care, in terms of resource for local authorities.
We can't afford, HS2 that we might not be able to afford. There's 100 billion. 100 billion at the government's figures. There's 250 billion at critics' figures. 250 billion pounds on 2 projects, one of which will probably never see the light of day. It will just be out on somebody's who'll never know about it.
But I think
the other is a railway no one will be able to afford to travel on. I'll be dead by the time it opens.
Well, I think if you looked at infrastructure, do I think we need infrastructure to get more jobs and opportunities in the country? The answer is yes. But do I think there is an argument for both on both sides to be made on high speed? Yeah, you're right. There is an argument to be made on both sides.
OK. Let's throw it open to you.
Kevin on line 1.
Morning, Kevin. What do you say?
Good morning.
Morning.
Matthew, this is like deja vu. If you go into Liverpool Street Station in London, you'll see a beautiful statue of 2 Jewish children where they were brought in from the kinder transport. And you wouldn't believe that 70, 80 years later we were doing the same thing again. And turning people away. One of the worries I've got is the charities are pointing out that when they return to these refugee camps, etc., they're finding a lot of these children are missing. And they're worried about them going into human trafficking and into the sex trade. We can't abandon these children, and they are children.
But Kevin, we can't afford to care for our own elderly. The councils haven't got any money, or so we're told they haven't got any money. How do you address that situation?
Well, you very wisely commented how much we could find money for bombs. I'm sorry, but if we can find money for bombs, we can find money just to feed a few children, for God's sake.
OK, Kevin, forgive me, I've got loads more calls and a few minutes. So.
We've got Mike on line 3.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Very impassioned plea from Kevin there. What do you say, sir?
I would say yes, but I see, and it was ironic that you have a studio, I wouldn't say full, but one of Laurie's, one of our articles in the paper was the Right Stuff audience. Perhaps you wouldn't have an audience if these people in your audience, the homeless in your audience, were afforded accommodation. So that's one point. But basically, that's basically what I wanted to say. That perhaps we have tens, if not hundreds of thousands of homeless people in the UK as we speak, sleeping on frozen doorways.
But Mike, but perhaps more germane...
Could I finish, please? Could I finish? Perhaps as you walk past them, you might turn to them and say, look, you're going to have to stay on in the frozen doorway because we're going to bring Syrian refugees and they're going to be...
Right, Mike, now with respect, just hear me out for a moment. Right. The argument I'll give you back is, unlike with the homeless, we are actively spending hundreds of millions of pounds bombing these people's homes, right? We are not doing that to the homeless. In some cases, they may be there on the streets through other fault or their own fault. I don't know. But I do know we can find the money to bomb their country, but we can't find it to look after the people we displace.
Yes, my point about that is it's not the homeless people in this country's
Can we just park the homeless for a moment?
It's not the homeless people in this country's fault that we're bombing them. So let's look after our own first. And
but hang on, Mike. The money that goes to the bombs, right? There's money going on bombs. You cannot negate that from this argument, right? We made a parliamentary decision to bomb their country.
Of course you can negate it. And that... you can't blame the people, the homeless people in this country for this.
It's just not moving on from the homeless. I was talking about the Syrian children. You bomb them, their homes go. Do we not have to look after them? Mike, I'll have to leave that question hanging in the air. Do feel free to comment and give us a thumbs up if you feel inclined. For more clips from the show and exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, click here. If you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button here to be automatically informed when new videos are available. Links to our other social media platforms can be found in the description. Thanks for watching.